Is this a great game or what? With Tim and Jeff Kurkjian, and we are at the ABCA, the American Baseball Coaches Association Convention in Washington, D.C. Thanks to our friends at GameChanger and Dick's Sporting Goods for hosting us, and we've got an awesome show planned for you. Now, we know it's the baseball offseason, but this place is just beaming with baseball fans. You've got bats, you've got gloves. People are taking BP, Dad. 30 feet from where we're set up right now. We have Brandon Geyer, who's going to be joining us from Major League Mindset. He, former major leaguer, has such a great mind behind him. He went to UVA, and he talks all about being a mental life coach, which is so important.
Right, and we also have Ross Natoli, the baseball coach at Catholic University for the last 40 years. He's won over 800 games, and we have from Game Changers, Alex Trezza.
Yeah, this is really great, and Ross Natoli, obviously a very important person in our family. My uncles, my dad's older brothers, played at Catholic University, and we're going to talk a little bit about my Uncle Matt, my dad's brother, who passed away from ALS in 2023, and what Ross Natoli has done in that program to honor him. So it gets a little bit emotional there, but we're excited to take you along for the journey. Dad, this day is all about coaches and managers at the ABCA. This is special.
I must have met at least 100 high school baseball coaches today. It was so cool. I met coaches from San Diego, from Boise, Idaho, from Michigan, and it seemingly they're all here, and they're here to learn how to be even better coaches. I loved it so much, and the connections with baseball, as we've talked about, Jeff. You know, there are so many people that I met, and I said, yeah, I knew you 30 years ago, or you played against my brother, or I played against you along the way. It was like going back in time coming to the coaches convention. It was absolutely great.
We're dedicating this episode to coaches, so you've got a whole bunch of great coach-related and manager-related things for the show, right?
Well, first off, Jeff, anyone who takes the time to coach baseball on any level is good with me. Of course, I grew up in a baseball family. My father, Pop, taught his three boys how to play the game. He taught Andy and Matt a whole lot better than I did how to play the game because they're in the Catholic University Baseball Hall of Fame, and I played at Walter Johnson High School. Not the point. The point is, this is where it all starts, with Little League Baseball, even before that, and to run into this many coaches who are trying so hard to help our kids, it is great. The one thing I heard a bunch of times today, Jeff, is, and I don't want to be critical about this, is the difficulty of parents involved in the coaching. Now listen, any parent who is involved in his son or daughter's, athletic career, God bless you, we're all for it. But I remember a few years ago, a buddy of mine was coaching a 12-year-old travel team in Chicago. And these kids were good, but the parents were not so good. And every time a kid would make an out, the parents would scream at the kids. So the coach, who was a Division I college pitcher, I'm going to leave his name out of this, and pitched in the College World Series, and at age 55 could still really throw hard. He got so tired of the parents yelling at the kids that he invited the dads out for batting practice in front of the wives and the children. And naturally, he struck out all the dads. He embarrassed all the dads, and two of them were furious, like, what was that all about? And the coach, who was still a really good pitcher, said, you have no idea how hard this game is to play. And you yell at your kids every single time that they make it out. Now you know what it's like to be humiliated in front of your family. Stop yelling at your kids. So here at a coaches convention, I think that story needs to be told.
Yeah, I think so too, and you bring up a great point. I was a Little League umpire for years dealing with coaches and parents, and listen, at the end of the day, it's supposed to be fun, and that's something really awesome that Brandon Geyer talks a lot about. And to hear that from a major leaguer who was an incredible football player in high school as well, for them to be saying this is supposed to be fun, it's okay to have fun, and you're still able to maybe make it to the major leagues. You know what I mean?
Right.
That is the special part of what's going on. I mean, as we're at the ABCA...
Jose Cruz Jr. just walked by. I shook Mo Vaughn. Hey, Jose, nice to see you.
Mo Vaughn walked by. Jose Cruz Jr. walked by. This is the
Michael
ABCA.
Kadire walked by. They're big leaguers everywhere here. This is so cool. So, Jeff, we have to teach our kids to how to play, and it starts at the little league level with 12-year-olds. We talked to Ross Natoli today, who teaches high school kids, recruits them, teaches them how to play college baseball. Then we get into minor league baseball. Our pal Mike Toomey was one of the best minor league managers for a very short period of time. I learned so much from him because I covered the Alexandria Dukes Class A team that Mike Toomey managed in 1980. And just to show you what a co-op team was like back then, he didn't know who was showing up and leaving his team on a daily basis because it was a co-op team. He would get a player from the Mariners organization or the Blue Jays. So there were multiple times that Mike Toomey, who was a great college baseball player, and his hitting coach, Elwood Holland from Howard University, they were the coach and the hitting coach of the team. They had to play in a minor league game because they didn't have enough players.
That's the beauty of what our coaches do and our managers do.
Right. But what's really changed, though, Jeff, are the facilities in college right now. It's just unbelievable. If you go to Mississippi State or any big-time Division I, the ballparks are unbelievable. The money that is spent to upgrade things is incredible. And back to Mike Toomey. Mike Toomey, when he coached at George Washington, they played their home games on the ellipse. The ellipse, of course, is just a giant piece of grass with some bases on it right there in the center of Washington, D.C., in the shadow of the Washington Monument and the Capitol and the White House. And Toombs, the manager at GW, he would have to go over the ground rules before the game with the umpires and say, okay, see that blue car parked on the street down the left field line? Anything to the left of that is foul, is out of play. And then if the tourist who was driving the blue car was replaced by a red car, they would have to stop the game and say, okay, now see the red car out there? Anything to the left is out of play. That's what it was like to play college baseball for George Washington in the late 70s. Things have changed so much, but the point is, as a college baseball coach, as Ross Natoli will tell us, you have to be adaptable.
So, throughout the first season of Is This a Great Game or What, we talk to a lot of managers on the show. We talk about a lot of managers, but, it's the coaches, too, that are making these teams. We've met so many of them here at the ABCA. Tell us some of your favorite coach stories.
Well, I have a million of them, so I just decided to look at my favorite coaches by their job. So among my favorite first base coaches ever was Jim Fry, who went on to manage two major league teams, manage them, not coach. But when he was the first base coach for the Orioles, Mike Flanagan got on base. This is during the DH era. So Jim Fry, who had a tremendously dry sense of humor, Mike Flanagan got on base, not used to being on base because he's a pitcher playing in a National League postseason game. And Jim Fry tells Mike Flanagan, okay, keep your left foot on the bag and get as big a lead as you can with your right foot.
No.
Yeah, so we love that. I also remember that Torey Lovullo, who's the manager of the Diamondbacks, Kelly Johnson, former Major League player, used to tell me that Torey Lovullo could sit in the first base coach's box and he could tell when the guy was going to throw over to first every time. So Torey would whisper to Kelly, he's coming over, and every single time he said he's coming over, the pitcher would throw over. That's really the job of a first base coach, is to make sure that everyone knows what's going on there. And this is not a great story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. Buck Showalter told me the story once where Greg Nettles, one of the really, really great defensive third basemen of all time, was the first base coach for the Yankees, and obviously after retirement. And Mel Hall made an out at first base and threw his helmet at his first base coach, Greg Nettles, who was a great Major League player. So Greg Nettles just picked up the helmet, took it back to the dugout, put it on the floor of the dugout, took out a bat, and smashed Mel Hall's helmet into 1,000 pieces. And he said, Mel, here's your helmet right here.
That's incredible. Do you have any third base coach stories? Because those were great first base coach.
Rich Donnelly is my favorite third base coach ever. Rich is a dear friend of mine. But, when as the third base coach, you're in charge really of sending the signs, getting the signs from the manager, and then sending them to the players. So Rich is the absolute greatest sign giver ever. And he said he used to practice all the time. He said, I'll be brushing my teeth in the morning at home, and my wife will walk in and I'll say, see if you can see the bunt sign while I'm brushing my teeth. He said, and he was serious, he said there were times when I would, I thought the locker room, the clubhouse was bugged, so I would take our players into the bathroom, into the stalls in the bathroom, and we would go over the signs in the bathroom to make sure they got it. And he said, and I would practice while I was driving my car, and I would pull up next to a guy parked next to me, and he would see me going through all the signs, and I'd roll down my window and say, did you get my signs? And the guy would look at me and say, what are you talking about? But this is what third base coaches do. Tim Flannery was a great third base coach, and he told me that he routinely would find kids in the neighborhood, 11-year-old kids in the neighborhood, and give them the signs for the San Diego Padres, figuring if an 11-year-old can figure out that this is the bunt sign, then the major leaguers should be able to figure it out also. Right. So he would practice on 11-year-olds. And he said he would walk in the shower certain nights after a game and give all the signs. And he said, players didn't like it very much when I gave them the signs
in the shower.
Yeah. And I did love it for a short time, and only I would get a kick out of this. But the Mets hired Razor Shines. That's his real name. I don't think Razor's a nickname. But Razor Shines played in the big leagues, had 81 at-bats in his major league career, and never scored a run. Think about that, Jeff.
Wow.
So that's like playing 20 games, getting 4 at-bats a game, never scoring a run. And he was the third base coach for the Mets. So as the third base coach for the Mets or for any team, your job is to send people home. And he never scored a run in 81 at-bats.
He probably sent a lot more people home, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right. My pitching coaches, they're obviously a little bit more important than base coaches. But one of my favorite pitching coaches was Tom House, who was the pitching coach for Bobby Valentine when he came to Texas. I think I told you this story. But Tom House, who was brilliant, knows more about the throwing of a baseball, I know, than anyone I've ever met, and was a good major league pitcher in his time. He got his pitchers to start throwing footballs before games because he thought the motion of throwing a football would strengthen your arm. So about halfway through the first year that Tom House was with the Rangers, I asked Charlie Huff, how's the throwing of the footballs going? Is it helping you guys? And he goes, I don't know, but we lead the league in third down conversions, which...
Well, now you see a lot of that, and you see even pitchers throwing javelin stats.
They're throwing footballs, they're throwing all sorts of things, everything to strengthen your arm. Mike Flanagan, the late, great Mike Flanagan, was the Orioles pitching coach several years, and he told one of his pitchers, he said, look, the one thing I don't want you to do is to put your pitching hand up on a ball hit up the middle, because you're going to try instinctively to bare hand a ball, and you might get hurt because you get hit on the bare hand, and it's your pitching hand. So one of his pitchers said, this is the stupidest thing ever. I'm not going to put my hand behind my back in a major league game. To practice, I'm not going to do it. And later that year, that pitcher threw his hand up trying to catch a ball hit through the middle and broke a finger and missed a couple of months. So maybe we should listen a little
our
bit more often
coaches.
to our pitching coach. One of the great pitching coaches of all time was named Art Fowler, good major league pitcher.
Yeah.
And Art was as old school as it got. So when one of his pitchers was really struggling throwing strikes, Art would go to the mound, and occasionally he would just look at his pitcher and say, "Son, Babe Ruth is dead. Throw the ball over the plate."
That's so beautiful.
So in one game in Cincinnati, I think it was, Rick Sutcliffe of then of the Cubs had given up a bunch of home runs, like 3 home runs in a row. And every time you hit a home run in Cincinnati back then, they would blow off a cannon. They would shoot off a cannon. So he gave up, I believe it was 3 homers in a row. And Art Fowler came to the mound. And Rick Sutcliffe, who's not very happy about this, he looks at Art Fowler and says, "Get the hell out of here. I don't want to see you out here, and I don't want Zim, the manager, to come out here either. Leave me alone." And Art said, "No, we're going to leave you in. I am just trying to save some time so the guy has more time to load up the cannon."
That's amazing.
All right, and the last thing about our coaches, I love hitting coaches. It's
Yeah.
a really hard job. Merv Rettenmund, who was with the Rangers when Doug Rader was there, the recently passed Merv Rettenmund, taught me more about hitting and the art of hitting than anyone I met. And he was the hitting coach for the A's when they had Mark McGuire and Jose Canseco
Wow.
during their
Wow.
time. So this is just a shout out to him. I'll never forget that Aaron Boone told me once, he's playing with the Indians, and he's in the prime of his career, but he's off to a terrible start. He's hitting like 150 on June the 3rd. So he walks down to the cage at 1 o'clock in the afternoon for a 7 o'clock game. And Eddie Murray, his hitting coach for the Indians, sees him coming. Eddie Murray's one of the great hitters ever, first ballot Hall of Famer. Eddie Murray sees Aaron Boone coming and just goes like this and just starts to shake his head like, "Oh no, here he comes again." And Booney looks at his own hitting coach and says, "You think I want to be down here at 1 o'clock in the afternoon for a 7 o'clock start? I'm in trouble. I need to hit. I need to get better." That's how hard it is to hit in the big leagues. And last thing, our friend Eduardo Perez told me, he was a hitting coach for the Marlins one year. And he really didn't enjoy it because of the time it took to do the job. And he equated being a hitting coach in the big leagues as the same as being a short order cook at a fast food restaurant. He says you look around and you've got 13 dishes going at one time because you got about 13 players to deal with. 10 of the dishes are cooking really well, but then you look around and 3 of them are on fire, and you got to go take care of those. So my point to all these stories, Jeff, is it's really difficult to be a coach on the little league level, the high school level, the minor league level, and the major league level. And I just hope we brought a new appreciation to how difficult it is to be a coach, but how important it is to be a coach. And here we are at the Coaches Convention.
With 3 great guests, Brandon Guyer, Ross Natoli, and Alex Treza of GameChanger is going to be joining us. Thank you for listening. And of course, you can watch on YouTube, Is This a Great Game or What? And follow us on social media to see some exclusive videos from our time at the ABCA. Our guests are coming up next. Is this a great game or what? We are at the ABCA with a very special guest. Thank you to our friends at GameChanger for hosting us. But today, we have Brandon Guyer, former major leaguer and a mental skills coach. Brandon, thank you for joining us. When I showed my dad the lineup of people who were going to be here, he said, "Stop," when I said Brandon Guyer's name, because he said, we got to get him on the show.
Wow. Well, first off, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. As I told you earlier, that means a lot because there's a lot of, very popular big names here, so thank you for that. It's great to see Tim. I've always had so much respect for you and everything you do, your passion and zest with everything when it comes to baseball and life, so it's quite an honor.
Well, we'll get to the mental skills in a minute, but first, things that intrigue me about baseball. You got hit by a pitch. 85 times in a 7-year career. Hank Aaron and Willie Mays together played 45 years and didn't get hit 85 times combined. How do you explain getting hit as often as you did?
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Well, I think you might have left off some of the ones in the playoffs. I don't know. Maybe because I think it's
I only
even
have the
closer
regular season. Are you over 90 now?
I might be. Chapman got me a couple times.
That hurt.
And almost the worst hit by pitch we can get into that was from Chapman in Game 4 of the World Series.
Yep.
Where did it hit you?
So literally, it could have been the worst, but it ended up being the best hit by pitch ever. They had to review it, so it literally grazed my pants, right where you don't want to get hit.
Right.
And they had to review it to see if it really hit me. So obviously, it could have been the worst thing ever. Actually, it was the best hit by pitch. But to answer your question, why? It was a combination. We're going to be talking about the mental side of the game. I kind of wired myself to look at it like it's a single. It's a walk. Like you're getting on base.
I'm helping the team.
I'm letting the big guys behind me drive me in. So I looked at it in a positive light. And then also, I was a platoon hitter for most of my career. So a lot of lefty pitchers that I'm facing don't want me to get extended, so they're pitching me in a lot. And I wired myself just not to move. And my stride would kind of turn when I would stride. My front foot would get to the chalk line. So if they missed just a little bit, it was going to hit my leg. So this leg, it took until 3 months into the offseason for all the bruises to go away from the season. But that's why, and combine those together, like I never went up looking to get hit.
Yeah.
It was just you combine those, that's how it happened.
I wrote a story once on what it's like to get hit by a pitch. And I must have interviewed 50 different guys, and not one of them had any trouble identifying the worst hit batter they've ever had because it hurt so much. Now, who hit you and where did he hit you that made you go, oh my God, this is going to leave a mark for a month?
Yeah. There's a lot that stand out. I got to think it was back in, I believe, 2015, Tampa Bay Rays, Charlie Morton, he was with the Pirates.
Right.
He always has that nasty two-seamer.
Right.
And, at the time, I think it was Kevin Cash, actually. He gave me fed me a bone. Hey, you can start against a righty today. Oh, thank you. So I'm in there, I'm grinding, and I'm going in, and he throws a nasty two-seamer. It looks like a strike the whole time. And I'm actually going to swing, and last second I was like, okay, it's not going to be a strike. So it hits my right bicep, but I go into it. Instead of I like to think I kind of got pretty good at turning away from pitches, so it didn't really hurt a whole lot. But this one, I went into it. And literally the next day, my whole arm blue and purple. But one thing I'm very proud of, if I'm going to say this about the hit by pitches, I never came out of a game and I never missed one game because of it. I know that's a lot of luck, and I hated to wear protective gear, so I never did. But yeah, so that the Charlie Morton one, without a doubt, stands out as the worst.
So, Brandon, I was a morning show radio host in Cleveland, Ohio, from 2015 to 2018. I was at Game 7 of the World Series, Chicago Cubs, Cleveland Indians, your team, I know. But it's known legendarily as maybe one of the best Game 7s in the history. That team, Terry Francona and your team, working with such a legendary manager who was a guest on our show last year.
Oh, wow.
And we laughed for 45 minutes. No surprise,
He is the best. I mean, how lucky am I that I got to play for Terry Francona. I mean, Kevin Cash is great, but also Joe Madden.
Yeah.
Two guys that, when I think of them, I think of they just allow you to play free and loose and kind of have fun. Obviously, they expect you to play the game hard, but as managers, they're always picking you up. And as I started to see, coach my son's youth teams, and I see all this, a lot of times I see the opposite.
Right.
Coaches are tearing down. I'm like, if you want them to play their best, don't you want to build them up?
Right. Yeah.
So to get back, Terry Francona, that's what he did so well, and it was an absolute joy to play for him. I got traded at the trade deadline, so going to a new team, him, the culture, the leadership there just made me personally feel so comfortable. And then that team, we had some big injuries heading into the playoffs, but it just shows when you have a team all on the same mission, all picking up each other, anything can happen. And so that season, something we'll never forget. In Game 7, I mean, I literally still get goosebumps every time I think of Rajai Davis tying that game in the 8th inning. Just crazy, amazing memory.
Chapman hadn't given up a homer since like June, and Rajai
right?
hadn't hit one since the beginning of August, and he hits one of the biggest home runs on the bench. You guys must have been apoplectic.
Well, so I had a great view. I was on second base. I just hit a double.
Right.
And so I see him. I'm like, oh my God, I've never seen someone choke up on the bat so much. He might have been choking up 5 inches, and then battled. And when he hit it, I didn't think he hit it high enough because Cleveland's wall is pretty tall in left field. And then I saw it hit that camera guy, camera. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Chapman's around 30 pitches. We just tied it up. Game 7, bottom of the 8th. We're about to win the World Series. I almost passed out. And then just like amazing what Rajai did and what the team did. And hey, wasn't meant to be. But,
right.
You know.
Did Tito make you laugh like he's made me laugh so many times?
All of us. And that, 100%. That's why I think his personality, what he did, it allowed players. I think, when it comes to the mental side of the game and all that, if we can help players play free and loose, they're going to be dangerous and they're going to more and more consistently show up at their best. Tito was really good at, in different ways, letting players play free and loose. Players, I didn't do it, but players are playing cards in his office all the time. Like, he's always around. He's always picking you up. There's been fascinating studies about what the power of a smile will do. Literally studies 2 groups. One group put a pencil in between their lips. The other one put it in between their teeth. The one in between their lips causes a frown. The other one, when it's in between your teeth, causes like a smile. And within, I feel it was 5 or 10 minutes, those who had the pencil in between their teeth, noticeably different positivity, attitude, and all that stuff. And so it comes back to the power of a smile.
Right.
It's actually a great mental tool. And for something we don't have to get into the mental game yet, but for my young kids who are 9, the team, when they feel like they're getting overwhelmed and the umpires are making bad calls or whatever it is, one of the things is step off, take a deep breath, and just smile. That's one of the best things that can release all of that negativity and just get you back to the present moment. So that's what Tito was good at, bringing smiles to everybody. Whether they showed on the outside like Lindor all the time or whether you're smiling on the inside, everyone's different, but it really helped.
Well, when I started in morning radio, long story short, I was having trouble getting up. I wake up every day 3:30 for the last 10 years. And somebody said, when you're in the shower in the morning, smile. Because it brings you natural endorphins and it wakes you up more. So that energy, it all comes from, you can get it from inside.
So we met
100%.
Lou Brock at the Hall of Fame one year. Lou Brock, one of the great baseball players of all time. He meets Jeffrey Kurkjian, who's 11 years old. And he meets him in the clubhouse of the golf course there with me. And Lou Brock looks at my son, who was 11, and said, "You have a great smile. You need to smile as often as you can. Nothing disarms a person faster than a great smile."
Yeah, I bet that
he
stuck
got that
with you.
advice from a
Big time.
Hall of Famer.
A Hall of Famer with a great smile, by the way. Lou Brock, one of the best smiles.
That's amazing. I just think of little things like that. You don't know when someone's going to say something, but that probably will be with you for the rest of your life. And it was since that moment. That's amazing.
No doubt.
That's
Right. So Joe Madden made you smile a bunch of times too. Tell us a Joe Madden story. Whether he brought a snake into the clubhouse.
That's what I was about to do.
Sadie. Sadie was the name of the snake. I remember. Tell us about what happened.
Yeah. No, he brought the snake in. He brought other animals into the clubhouse. He would just do these things, whether it was in the clubhouse or flights or whatever it is. Once again, free and loose. How can I allow these players to have fun and play free and loose? Another story, when we were playing the Tigers one day at Detroit, I believe, and you probably actually know this, he made the lineup 8-6-7-5-3-0-9, I believe, or some sort of way. I might be messing that up. But
No,
didn't he
you
do
did. It's one of his favorite songs.
Yeah.
And because he's a music guy.
Yeah, exactly. So he did that, and I think I was actually in that lineup with the facing a righty pitcher. But anyways, so I think of that. There's so many that stand out, but that are coming to my head right now are the animals that would come in, and when he made that lineup that day.
Did you get close to the snake, or were you one of those guys who were 50 feet away?
Yeah, so I got close. So a big thing for me, I think, for what holds human beings back more than anything, I believe I was taught this at a young age, is fear. And snakes are a big fear of mine. And I was taught the only way to overcome your fears, you got to face them.
Yep.
So as bad as I did not want to go see that snake and touch it, I went up and I made sure I did, knowing that, hey, this might sound weird, but it's going to help me in other facets of my life because, I faced that fear, I overcame it. The other fear that comes up, whatever it is, fear of failure in a certain high-pressure moment, I can handle that too. So, yeah.
So Joe Madden told me the story about Sadie, about how many players just ran for the hills. But he said the guys who went right up next to the head of the snake, Joe Madden says, maybe I can trust that guy in the 9th inning of a game tonight. So
Right.
typical, being who the psychologist that he is, he was trying to learn something about his players, and he saw someone like you who's afraid of snakes, who went up and challenged him.
Yeah. In those moments, though, you got to have trust. The snake handler, they wouldn't bring a snake. They've trained it good, so
Right.
that also brings some trust as you and going forward.
Could you imagine that injury report? 15-day DL, bit by a snake, brought in by the
my God, 'cause
manager.
if I see a little gardener snake or whatever, rat snake or whatever they're called just in my yard, a lot of times I'm running away.
Well, as a Maryland guy, we get a lot of snakes. Dad's had one in his garage.
In his garage.
Yeah.
We won't
my
go
God.
into that.
Not much freaks me out as much as snakes.
Yeah.
Right. So Joe told us that day that the snake started to poop. And the handler said, this is a good sign. We got to take him. Like, he hadn't eaten in 2 weeks. And then once you start
so
to
he's getting
poop,
hungry.
it was starting to get hungry. So he
You
said,
gotta take
time to
him
go.
away.
We're leaving.
That's funny. I totally forgot about that.
All right, we're going to pivot to this. Sorry, Jeff. You were a great high school football player, and you look like you could play in the NFL right now. How much did your high school football exploits help you as a baseball player, and vice versa?
Yeah, it did a lot. And when anyone ever asks me about this, I always go to my wife. Because I don't know if you remember Lindsay Murphy.
Yes, she's in the business.
Yeah, she worked for Fox 5 here in D.C. as sports anchor. And we met at University of Virginia. She was a reporter at the time. She interviewed me. And her first question is, are you more of a football player and a baseball body or something? Like talking about football a lot.
Yeah.
Because I would run into walls and do all this stuff. So I always think about her when anyone does that. I just want to bring that up. But in terms of the physicality, it helped me so much. And honestly, I tried to look and play and be as physical as I possibly could because I missed that in playing football. I love baseball. Football was the most fun I've ever had playing that. And I really wanted to play in college. It just, it didn't work out to play both. But I think that physicality was huge. And, a football player, I believe physiology drives psychology a lot. So really as a football player, becoming as physically and mentally fit as possible, I knew that would then drive my psychology. So that's where I believe the football, physiology and mentality directly translated to baseball and really helped me during my career. And, as you asked, I got hit a lot. Well, I'm not getting hit as a running back by linebackers, so I might let me get hit by pitches, know? So,
Dad, we have to stop bringing guests on the show that are a lot smarter than us, all right?
Well, I don't know. I don't think that's the case. Don't let the glasses fool you.
Yeah, we've had a few of those. So just to finish this point, so I met Ahmad Rashad long before your time, Hall of Fame football player, great wide receiver at University of Oregon. I met him at a baseball game at Yankee Stadium. He's in the first row. So I get to talking to him, and I say, did you ever play baseball? And he goes, I love to play baseball, but I couldn't play it. I was afraid of the ball.
Stop. And he was a big football player.
And he was a great football player. And he's used to going across the middle and getting killed by a safety or a cornerback. But the fear of the ball drove him out of the game. And Brandon, I totally understand that. Yeah. The fear of the ball drives people out of the game every day. You're the minority who's not afraid to get hit. But I found that fascinating that a football player was afraid of the ball, but he wasn't afraid to play football.
That is crazy. That really is.
Can you understand that?
I can. I mean, I guess it's a different thing. Like, you don't have as much control of the ball and where it could hit you. Whereas football, you have a little bit more control.
You got pads on.
You have pads, for sure. But since I retired, that's something I've really noticed. It's an epidemic. Young kids are quitting baseball because they can't get over that fear.
Right.
And so I tried to, as much as I can, just share tips and ways to get out of the way, ways to overcome that fear. And actually thinking about this table right now, it brings me up with one of the top tips. It's like, If you're a young ball player listening or anyone who struggles with it, when you walk around your house, I'm sure at some point in your life you've stubbed your toe on a table or something like that, and it hurt very bad.
Yeah.
The pain went away. But I bet every time you walk by that table, you don't think about it, right? So let's start to apply that to getting hit. It's going to hurt probably. Most of the time, it's not going to be severe. It's going to go away. But we don't need to think about it all the time, because if we're thinking about that rather than up there hitting the ball with how good these pitchers are nowadays, it makes the game way harder than it already is. So
yeah, as a longtime Little League umpire, that was the hardest part for me, because as silly as it sounds, right, you can't hit the ball if you don't step up to the plate. And some of these kids running out, and you've seen it 100 times, I've seen it 100 times, and just to stay in there, it's such a mental aspect that no other game, except for maybe football, of course, running across the open field in the flat, doesn't have to deal with. And every play starts with a pitch,
Exactly.
So it's this game needs, people like you to talk about the mental aspects of not only adults playing the game, but also kids.
Yeah, and this actually affected my son a year and a half ago when he first started doing kid pitch. He got hit one of the first times in practice by like a very hard thrower. So all of a sudden he's stepping in the bucket every time. I'm like, my son might be my hardest client here, because he didn't want to listen to me.
Right.
But then with the team, what we did, I got these softballs, and we would just practice throwing at him, practice getting out of the way, and thank the good Lord, it went away. He doesn't have it anymore, but it can get anybody, and but yeah.
But Jeff, that's the lesson. This is what baseball players know, is how much it hurts. So let's use a softer baseball. Let's throw tennis balls at them. Let's teach them how to get out of the way. So when a baseball does come, they are trained to turn like this instead of turning
that's
into
the
the
scary
ball.
thing. A lot of young ones are doing this, and then it's opening up all this.
Right.
Yeah.
And
That's what Tony La Russa teaches, is if a kid steps in the bucket, he is now opening himself up to a position he can't correct.
Yeah.
But if you step this way, now you can turn like this.
turn away, almost like you're catching an egg, like you would do
Right.
this, and kind of like that's what I kind of worked on as I continue to go, is turn away from it,
Right.
get it on the meaty part of the body. It's still going to sting,
Right.
but it's obviously a lot better head, face, and all that.
Sure.
So, Brandon, we're here at the ABCA, the American Baseball Coaches Association. Is there a coach that you want to thank when you were growing up in Herndon, Virginia? Somebody who helped you learn the game, or somebody who really, really helped make you into the major leaguer that you became?
Wow, that's a great question.
I'm sure you've had hundreds and hundreds of coaches to this
There's so
point.
many coaches that come to mind, but I'm gonna pick some that are here right now when it comes to, and it's actually a college coach. It's Brian O'Connor and Kevin McMullen at the University of Virginia.
Right.
No,
Kevin
Brian.
McMullen was named the National Assistant Coach of the Year yesterday. He got the award, and what they did for me. So my story is my first 3 years at Herndon High School, I was a below average player. I hit 270 as a junior. Finally, then I started to train the mental side, and I was given this key that unlocked all my physical skills. And I was just fortunate that summer of my junior year, they were at a tournament and saw me play. And they were the first. Coach O'Connor came to my house, offered me, believed in me, because no one up to that point was really talking to me at all. And then I go to UVA, and I get caught up in the college life there, and I stopped training the mental side of the game the first year. I go in as a third baseman. They tried the experiment of me playing third and Zimmerman playing shortstop, Ryan Zimmerman.
Right.
I'm this hotshot recruit. I don't need to train the mental side. It's like riding a bike. It's like I forgot everything. So I almost got kicked out of school. They moved me to the outfield. I stayed there for good, but the man they helped me become off the field specifically, and then it translated on the field, and the opportunity that they gave me and have given so many players, and the culture that they built at University of Virginia. I mean, there's literally so many coaches I can thank, but Brian O'Connor and Kevin McMullen at UVA 100% come to mind.
Yeah.
What was the key that unlocked your physical skills? Do you know what it is? It's here.
Yeah, so-
well, explain what that means.
Yes, so without a doubt, in high school, I couldn't control my emotions. I relied on results for confidence. So I relied on something out of my control for confidence. In a game of failure, results aren't always going to be there. So if I didn't have that, I was like at an amusement park at the game rather than just being even keel. I was
Right.
so up and down. I couldn't handle failure because I feared it and I didn't know how to handle it. So the key became my mindset. And there's position player, 5 tools: hit for power, hit for average, good arm, good speed, good defense. I think the sixth and most important tool is this, because it's what helps get the most out of all of these. Like, players can work so hard on these, but what about in big moments, in big situations? You can have the best exit velo and the best BP, but in those moments, if you're tight and tense, it's going to throw off everything, and you're not going to be able to slow things down. So I train that very intentionally, like this wristband I'm wearing. The great Ken Ravizza, when it comes to the mental game, he's like the mental performance pioneer. He would always talk about the breath, and I read that book, Heads Up Baseball, heading into senior year, and it changed everything for me. And then 7 years later, when I'm with the Tampa Bay Rays, he followed Joe Madden around as a team sports psychologist. He was there, and I said, "Thank you, Ken. You changed the trajectory of my life." So the key became my mindset. It didn't, it literally became like this personal source of power that I don't think it changed me. It allowed me to finally be me. I had a better sense of self.
It unlocked something.
A different identity. Didn't put all my self-worth to who I was as a baseball player. I could separate the two. And so then I went out and had more confidence and played free and loose. And as I said earlier, when we can get players to do that, they are dangerous, and then they allow themselves to find out how good they can be.
Yeah.
So the sixth tool, without a doubt, the mindset is that's what helps players get the most out of those other
So
five
when
tools.
the mindset changed, but then you would have an 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts as everybody does. How did you get through that with your new mindset?
I think it all comes down to approaching everything. It's hard, but it's approach everything, win or learn. So I'm going to go into competition mentally and physically as prepared as possible. It's a hard game, so I'm either going to win, and if I do, a big part of that is to celebrate.
Right.
3 words you're going to want to say. That's like me. You come
what?
That's like me.
Got it.
In a big moment, something you're proud of to build up your self-image, because we'll never outperform a poor self-image, and we're really only capable of living and playing up to the image we create for ourselves. So who we think we are literally drives everything we do. So we want to say, when we have success, that's like me. And then when we eventually, in this game and in life, fail and fall short of our standards, it's a learn. We're not losing. We're learning from it. It's like we're getting data, we're reflecting, and then using that to help us in the future. And then this tip, win or learn, really becomes win or win, because learning is winning. So literally when you can do that, you become so good at handling failure. And I think the best of the best are the best at failing. Big leaguers are obviously very talented. So are a lot of minor leaguers. So are a lot of college guys. It's how do you handle the inevitable failure that comes your way? And I really believe we all hear like resiliency is good. Be resilient. And I think those are who are resilient. They bounce back quicker than most. But I don't think we should bounce back. I think we should bounce forward. We should fail forward. And a term I like to talk about, I'll be talking about it later today a lot, is anti-fragility. When we're anti-fragile, we're the opposite of fragile. We're unbreakable, and literally it's like Ace Ventura in Pet Detective where that box is getting kicked around. The more you get kicked around, the stronger you get when you're anti-fragile. And it's just a game changer because you actively benefit from all the failure and adversity that comes, and you look at it like it's a true partner in growth. And it's a long way of me getting back. That's how you can really deal with those 0 for 3 of 3 strikeouts and just realizing it's going to happen. Right?
Yeah.
3 things. I know I'm going off here, but this is a big part of it. 3 things that were taught to me a while ago by a mentor. Brandon, you, me, every other human being will never be exonerated from 3 things in life. And he said they are pain, uncertainty, and hard work. So no matter who you are, from time to time, you will have pain mentally or physically. You will have uncertainty of your future from time to time, and it's going to take a lot of hard work and discipline to get what you want. And the greater the challenges you face, the more committed you need to be to your routines and your protocol. And once I learned all of that, well, that first year in AA with the Tennessee Smokies, where I was hitting 180 after 200 at-bats, this is a normal part of being a human being. It's not supposed to be easy. It just helped me deal with that. Instead of being the end of the road that year in Tennessee, it became a slight bend in the road. I finally went from being the first base coach for Ryan Sandberg with the Tennessee Smokies in 2009. I got sent down, finished strong. Then next year, I won the Cubs Minor League Player of the Year award and led the league in hitting, but the year before I was the worst in the league. And it only happened because I cultivated that emotional stamina and anti-fragility to do that. And then that offseason, I was traded to the Rays, and my big league career started. And I'm only bringing this all up because it all comes back to this.
Right.
If I don't have that, there's no way that time, rock bottom of my life, 2009 Tennessee Smokies. It's the end of everything. We aren't talking right now. Probably never been fortunate enough to meet you and you, Jeff. So it's just the power of this is really crazy.
Brandon, I have to say, for anybody listening to this, watching this, I am just hypnotized because this is more than just about baseball. You know, you're talking about the game of baseball, but you even mentioned this applies to life. I mean, I feel so rejuvenated to have that attitude and those tools to be able to work this. Do you feel now as a, mental skills coach, you are kind of giving back to those who gave you those skills? Now you're like, okay, I got to pay it forward. I got to do this for the kids because someone did it for me.
Yeah, I would almost feel like I was just a waste. If I'm given all this wisdom and knowledge and fortunate enough to have the experience I had playing and get that platform, if I don't give it back in a way, I mean, it just so happens I'm very passionate about it, so that helps too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that would be a travesty if I had all of this and went through all these tough, guys, anything you can think of mentally or physically, I have been there. Fear, worry, doubt, stress, performance anxiety, rejection, demotion, embarrassing moments, on and off the field, I dealt with it all. I had 7 surgeries, we talked about I got hit a lot. So mentally, physically, a lot of pain. And so doing what I do now, I was telling a couple people yesterday, I've never felt so much meaning and purpose in my life. I've never felt more meaning and purpose of what I do, and super just fortunate to be able to have the platform to do this.
I have just been taken to church by Brandon Geyer. Seriously, you are preaching some amazing things, Major League mindset. Where can they find you on social media so people can get into that mindset, and learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, so most of them are at Brandon Geyer. I think Instagram's at bgeyer5 when I first started it, but brandongeyer.com has all the information. I would love to, anyone reach out, I'm here to be of service. That's what I'm trying to just give back as much as I can. So, and what you guys are doing, I really appreciate the opportunity to help spread the word, but obviously get up and connect. But love what you guys are doing, what you've always done for the game. Like I said, your zest and everything, it just oozes out of you. So I really appreciate how you attack everything.
Well, I'll tell you, we did 35 episodes last year, Brandon, and when pretty much every guest would end an interview with that, Tim, you've been so great. And so he immediately just is like, all right, we're done. Dad, this has been a dream of mine to do this podcast with you. And Brandon, as I said at the top, you were our go-to guest with what you're doing with Major League Mindset and everything. It's really special. We can't thank you enough for your time. And good luck on the stage at the ABCA.
Yeah, thank you. I really, really appreciate it.
We really appreciate it. I'm still not going near a snake anytime soon, though.
Maybe we can do it together one day. Get over it together.
There we go.
Welcome back to Is This a Great Game or What? I'm with my son, Jeff Kurkjian, and a very special guest, Ross Natoli, the head baseball coach at Catholic University. He's been there for 40 years, and he's won over 800 games. Doc, it's so good to see you.
Thanks, Tim. Great to be on with you and Jeffrey.
Well, I got to say, it's so fitting. We're driving to the ABCA, okay? We're here, and you guys got dinner the other night, and you casually dropped, Dad, we're doing the podcast at the ABCA, and Ross goes, ABCA, we're going to be there. We know the ABCA. Well, this is so perfect that we get to sit down with you and have an episode with you.
As you know, all things in the baseball world, in the final analysis, are small.
Yeah.
The connections just happen.
Yeah,
so
it's amazing.
It was really great.
Now, Ross, you still have a full-time job at the Department of Energy. Explain how you could keep a full-time job and coach a baseball team literally every day.
Well, it starts with having the best wife ever.
Right.
Yep.
And really learning to balance your time so that you're doing justice to the family part of your life first still, and then dividing up the other two. So it comes down to time management. It comes down to really enjoying both areas, both as an engineer with the Department of Energy and, my love of coaching baseball.
All right, now, Ross, I want you to tell Jeffrey the story, and don't leave out any details about the time you were going to be late for batting practice, and you called Bobby Pichardo, your coach, and said, I'm going to be late. Take it from there, and don't leave out any details.
Okay. So I work at the Department of Energy during the day from 7 to 3:30 typically. So that afternoon I had taken off because we were playing a game at Randolph-Macon in Virginia. So I'm driving down 95 and I left about noon. And then there was an accident and traffic's backed up. You know, our game's at 3. You know, we were supposed to hit from like 1:20 to 2. So around 1 o'clock or so, I tell Bobby, look, I'm still probably about 15, 20 minutes away. Can you get it started if I don't make it? And he said, sure. Well, I ended up making it like right at the BP time. So I parked my car. You know, as baseball coaches do, we halfway changed in the car, but all I changed was I got my work shoes and I put turf shoes on. So I took my tie off. I had khaki pants and just a collared shirt, and I just went right to the mound and threw BP like that in my street clothes. And Ray Hedrick, great friend of mine, tremendous program at Randolph-Macon, still talks about it, still holds it against me. He goes, and then we actually won that game. He goes, we just lost to a team where their coach just threw batting practice in street clothes.
That's amazing. That's what coaches do.
That's what we do.
That's what we do.
Yep.
And Ross, that's surely not the only story like that. You must have had other ones where you're juggling. It's just amazing that. But again, when you have to keep a full-time job and a love for baseball, sometimes it's difficult.
Well, Ross, you and we talked on the podcast. Obviously, we launched in 2024. Just half a year after we lost Uncle Matt, my dad's brother, to ALS. And I'm going to try to get through this without crying because we've talked about this. We did a special ALS Lou Gehrig Day show. And for us, this was really a beautiful tribute to Uncle Matt, who loved baseball more than anybody we knew.
Right.
And a great baseball player at Catholic University, a Hall of Fame member of Catholic University, along with his older brother, my dad's oldest brother, Andy Kurkjian. You created the Ultimate Teammate Award, Matt Kurkjian Ultimate Teammate Award, which is awarded. I want you to talk a little bit about why you did it and what player receives this award each year.
40 years later coaching, I've never played with or coached a better teammate than Matt Kurkjian. I haven't. And so when I got the news, Matt that summer mentioned, boy, Ross, I'm having trouble buttoning my shirt, and then ended up diagnosis, finally the diagnosed with ALS, and I said, boy, I want to stay close with Matt and his family through all this, because I know, as Matt would probably say, this is going to be tougher on you guys than it is going to be on me. That's the kind of guy he was.
Right.
And
we're taping this on Saturday, January the 4th, and today is Matt's birthday.
How special is that?
Yeah, so it's a very special thing for us. Now, Ross, tell us how important it is to be a great teammate.
As you've said many times, Tim, and I've invited Tim to talk with our team. We've met him. We've met Tim and Matt at Nats games, talking to our team. There is no greater tribute in baseball than to be considered a great teammate. And when you're trying to build a culture that really means something, and again, I never forget the privilege that it is to coach. Just to have the opportunity to make a positive difference in a young man's life, it's a true privilege, and you can never forget that. And it's also about the connections that you make with your players and your coaches as well. But the Matt Kurkjian Ultimate Teammate Award is really central to what our team culture really is about. It's about serving others. It's about caring about your teammates. It's about really having each other's backs than just talking about it. And you don't realize it until 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But you're going to be teammates for life.
Yeah.
And there was no better teammate than your brother and your uncle, Matt Kurkjian.
Well, thank you for that, Ross. I want you to just tell one final story for us. It's the greatest story ever for our family. When Uncle Matt threw out the first ball at the Mount St. Mary's game that day. Can you tell us what happened that day?
I'll tell you what happened. Well, first of all, I had to mention, and I talked to Mike Toomey as well. Said, Mike, you really want to come out because I'm going to have Matt come to the Mount and throw out the first pitch. We played 20 games 40 years ago in the fall. Now we're only allowed to play one date in the fall against somebody else. So good friend of mine, Frank Leone, just got the job at Mount St. Mary's. I typically played the Naval Academy all the time in the fall, but we played Mount St. Mary's. That was our one game. And I go, you know what? I want to really just honor Matt at this game. So I'd let Tim know, and I wanted to make sure that as many of the Kurkjians, that were available could come as well. But we had shirts made up before that, and I was wearing one, but I made them for my whole team. And then I had a bunch of others for the Kurkjian family when they came. So when Matt got there, I said, Matt, come down to the field. We want you to get ready to throw out the first pitch. And I had all my guys in the dugout and, had them walk out. And they all had their Matt Kurkjian Catholic TV Baseball Kurkjian number 2 on the back. And that was really one of the special moments in my coaching career, to have that privilege to honor someone like Matt.
After he looked at his family all wearing M. Kurkjian 2 jerseys, and then he looked at all 47 Catholic University players were wearing that jersey, and he said, I can't believe they did this for me. And that's the first time I've seen him cry since this whole ordeal began. But that's because it was a baseball team that reached out. It was his team, and it was Ross and the CU team. And it just shows you again how baseball cherishes its players, takes care of its players, and celebrates its players.
Ross, this has been so great to have you join us at the ABCA. Thank you for sitting down with us, for honoring Uncle Matt on his birthday. Could not come at a better time. Ross, thank you for what you've done for our family.
Thanks so much for having me, Tim and Jeffrey.
Thank you, Ross.
So good.
So great.
So good.
Is this a great game or what? And we are at the ABCA thanks to our friends at GameChanger. And one of the guys who have made that happen is our guy Trez, who we recently got a video of him hitting a home run at a Major League ballpark. So we need to get into that, of course. We need to thank you for having us out here. We were with you at the Little League World Series and now the ABCA. This is a special event here.
Yeah, it's awesome. I want to thank you guys. I mean, I haven't met you guys really before until Little League World Series, and we've become fast friends. And GameChanger and myself personally are so thankful for that. And yeah, it's a great thing, and I'm really happy you guys are here.
And tell us the truth. When you hit that ball out of the ballpark, when was the last time you took batting practice? Tell us the truth.
Probably, I said 10 years before when we were joking around, but a good 5 years. And,
wow.
No meaningful swing. So, yeah, it's been a long time. And I did have khakis and a polo on, and sneakers. So it was a feat,
if
let's
you could
say.
really dig in, with baseball
exactly.
pants and cleats.
Sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah.
Trez, for what you do at GameChanger, how much does it help that not only were you a minor league player, you were a really good minor league player. How much does that help in the job that you do?
Yeah, well, thank you. It was a long, windy road as a minor leaguer, over 10 years, but it does help, right? It's just, we were talking about this before, the baseball world is very connected, and it's large, right, but also small. So, having those relationships and the trust in the market of like someone who's gone through it a little bit, I think really helps, our product and just, connecting with coaches and players and families. So it definitely helps on a daily basis.
Yeah, for those who don't know anything about GameChanger, first of all, it's become synonymous with Little League Baseball. You can stream, you can keep score, you can get stats. I mean, those are the kind of things that I would spend tirelessly when I was sitting on the bench of my team, trying to figure out everybody's statistics. GameChanger will do it for you. It'll stream the game, so grandma and grandpa in California, if you're in Maryland, can be watching your son or daughter's games, and you're expanding to more than just baseball. But baseball is such your bread and butter here, and that's why you're at the ABCA.
Yeah, it's really a great product, right? And I really think it's, and we talk about this all the time, with our company, but we're a community app, We connect parents and kids and coaches, and you mentioned grandmas and grandpas that can kind of tune in. But it's at scale too, right? We cover over 7 million games a year. We live stream over 2 million, right? So we're really able to connect those communities, and for the people that can't be there, right, make them feel like they're kind of sitting in the stands, watching what's going on in person.
Trez, where were you? Where was I 15 years ago? My daughter was a great high school basketball player, Jeffrey's sister, and I missed one game in 4 years of her high school career, and she scored 20 against Richard Montgomery, and I missed it, and I could have been watching it with GameChanger.
Yeah, fast forward, right? You would have been right there with her. But it's a great thing. It's come a long way. Started in 2010 and has grown and grown. And we also offer emerging sports, right? We have basketball, we have football, we have lacrosse, and some others. So it's not just in the diamond space, but it's becoming something, that covers all youth sports.
Alex, Trez, thank you so much for having us. Seriously, this has been a great time. To our continued relationship with GameChanger, of course, we hope to, and it was very convenient that it was in D.C., because Dad and I drove together this morning. He made me a breakfast sandwich that I could eat in the car. This is a father-son show, and that's what GameChanger is all about, is the family. So.
Well, thank you guys so much again. This has been amazing, and look forward to the future together.
Well, thank you, Trez.
Thanks so much.
And let's go deep.
Let's go deep.
Yeah.